ready for the post assembly. And so the post holder, we have the short post at 1.69, 1/11/16, familiar with fractions. 2 3/8 for the long, 2.375, rounded. And let's see, what would that one be? 6.875. So just running through some numbers. 1/8 inch on the base, inch thickness on the top, and then the 832. So we're going to go with the save as and open first. I think it's going to be a little quicker to do the cylinders and extrude up, but we have more control with the revolve. So if I do an infinite length vertical, and then the line command, and we'll make sure to close that off. Have the length, so 1.69, 0.125. When we go through the design for manufacturing now, it'll be interesting to look up at these stack up tolerances. So go 0.75. And then we have 1.25 for the OD. Okay, into the features, perform the revolve, 360 degrees, pick the top face, go into the whole wizard, and their section view, they show those pretty deep. So the one is called out on the long, the 832 is called out 0.66 and ½ inch. And that one has, in the assembly view, has the screw in it. So they've done kind of what I would say is a general recommendation. Make sure that you have more thread than you need for the fastener. If you don't have one that length, then you can always go a little bit longer. So we're going to go to the threaded hole, find our 832, and we said 0.66, and if we put in the thread depth of 0.5, it gives us a little bit, but 0.66 is okay. And positioning it, we'll go to the origin, accept. If we look at that from the front, then we have plenty of depth. Alright, so we're going to save. And this was the post holder. Not quite sure why they reversed those, but let's go with it. This will be the short. 2.38 for the long. Make sure to rebuild it. File, save as. All right, that's always the risk of changing that prior, is that if I happen to forget, I usually end up overwriting the one that I wanted to keep. So we go long. I guess we'll go back and capitalize that. Alright. Doesn't really need to, so new. And we need the clearance hole, so keeping it in the same orientation. Circle, clearance hole, what did they give us? 0.19. usually would be about a 170, about 170, 177.19 for the clearances. We'll go ahead and include those. 0.25, 0.19, extrude. All right, so we're going to have 0.125 on the disk. And we'll save this as the disk top. So, at this stage, let's, we haven't done much in the way of a subassembly, so really the only thing that makes this a subassembly, and even configurations in the assembly. So, if you build this and the next steps and don't want to mess with this assembly step, you can put these together individually, and there's looks like 2 of the short and 2 of the long, so it's just a few extra steps. But just to tie these points together, we're going to go assembly inch, and I'm going to bring the disk top in as my base piece, and then let's go ahead and save. Post holder. Alright, so when I bring in the next, we have to decide what the default is. Well, the default, if we're going to set these up as a configuration, is to just go ahead and leave that. Create the short. And if I'm going to go with the naming, and let's pull the configuration name. This looks a little bit different. I'm going to have to check into child component display when used as a subassembly. Have to see what that does. Alright, so go ahead and accept it. We're going to insert the next component. Bring in the short, and that looks like it did what I didn't want it to do anyway. So if we need to correct it, I think I got ahead of myself, and we can double click. So let's change that 169, either that or I got them reversed. Alright, so I was trying to keep track of it, but then, yeah, I didn't do such a good job there. So concentric, watch for the pop-up, and we're going to lock the rotation. And then it doesn't, I was checking on the bearings for the rest of the assembly, so that is up. We have the bolts and screws. If it was not, I would do the add in now and activate the toolbox. We want socket head screws, button head. We're going to drag and drop to that location. And based on the depth, we're going to go with a 1/2 inch. They did 7/16, but 7/16 is kind of a weird number. I would tend to, if I looked in the catalog, there's probably only a little bit of difference in the cost of the length, but what we'd have to watch out for is that sometimes the inner fractional sixteenths, you might get 50 for $1 less and 100 for $1 more. So if we're doing cost analysis, we just want to be aware of those. Alright, so I go back to the default. That's active, so I did not suppress. So we can suppress that guy out. It's still underdefined. I thought I got that rotate. So let's bring in the long. So somewhere I did manage to save that. Alright, so coincident. Want to watch for that little box because that would flip the mate alignment, turn this the other way. Alright, so I missed the pop-up, so we'll go with concentric, lock rotation, hit OK, and then we need to double check what was going on. And actually, I was going to make that the post holder and then if we need to, since that popped up, so notice we got the brackets, that's the name that's going to be on the bill of materials. And we go back to the properties, and I change that to configuration name. And we go ahead and save it. Alright, so double click or show, and then we can suppress. Alright, so the base, just going to reorder that a little bit. So I have the disc top as the default and the screw, and then the long and the short, and that one's still showing up. So one of the reasons we go through is I thought I had everything lined up and organized the way I want it, but we want to check those configurations as we create them. Alright, so that gives me now a single file that I can drag and drop into the assembly as we go, and the post holders will both be available to select out of this one file.